All right, guys, thank you so much. We are in the second video of my new Seeing the World Integrally playlist. Now, today's video, we're going to be talking about the internet, its effect on the world, and why I believe the internet is a manifestation of and propagator of integral consciousness, the new structure, just in the same way that the book, the printed book, was a manifestation of and propagator of the mental structure. And like I said, we're integrating, right? So we're not just going to be sticking with philosophy. We're going to be doing some other subjects as well, media studies, cultural studies, stuff like that. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this. We're going to be reading one of my articles today on Substack. Now, normally, I was originally planning on just doing my own video on this separate from my article, but then I realized why my article was comprehensive enough. It's actually longer than I remember it being, so I apologize about that. But it's relatively comprehensive, and I think it's pretty good. My article is titled "The Internet is an Effect, Not the Cause of Our Cultural Turbulence," and we're going to get right into it. So I just want to give a quick shout out. Of course, I'm going to be pulling from John David Ebert's The New Media Invasion. This is in my top 5 books of all time. Definitely in my top 10, probably in my top 5. And this book completely changed the way I view the world. It completely changed the way I view media studies, inspired a new love for media studies. It changed the way I viewed the internet, and it changed the way I view society. You must read this book. This book is amazing, and its author, John David Ebert, I have shouted out multiple times. He is my unofficial mentor when it comes to this intellectual stuff. So if you like my channel and you like the connections I make between Gebser and other aspects of society, a lot of that comes from him. Not all of it. Some of the political stuff is kind of my own, but I'm going to be pulling from his book extensively. His courses are amazing. I have purchased like 7 of them. It's the only reason I know anything outside of Gebser, and he's the one who put me on to Gebser. So please go check John out. He has a YouTube channel that he's operating still today, currently, and he has courses that he does. So I wholly recommend you guys go to John, support him, because he is wholly underrated. He's kind of like Gebser, just hyper brilliant, hyper erudite, and hyper underknown. Very frustrating to an extent. You have to excuse me. It's very hot in my neck of the woods, so I might be pausing to drink some water. I went on a run today, and it was very hot. So, without further ado, let's get into it. I listened back to the first video in this series, and I realized I need to stop pounding my desk because it's affecting the microphone. So I'm going to try really hard not to do that. I do apologize about that. And let's get right into it. So the internet is an effect, not the cause of our cultural turbulence. Excuse me. By 2005 or so, quote, by 2005 or so, it will become clear that the internet's impact on the economy has been no greater than the fax machines, Paul Krugman infamously said in an interview conducted in 1998. It's easy to mock, especially considering the source of the statement. Paul Krugman is a moron. But there is a deeper lesson to be learned so long as you read between the lines. Paul's statement was ignorant and wrong. Ignorant because he could not imagine the implications of the internet, and wrong because his predictions did not come to pass. Again, it's easy to beat up on him, but ignorance of media studies is prevalent. The masses have never heard of McLuhan or Postman and, even if they have, would never read one of their books. From their perspective, media are simply neat mediums that allow them to engage with their favorite art and, at their best, can enhance their appreciation of it through medium-specific characteristics like higher image and audio quality. But, on the whole, anyone who deeply appreciates media is most likely a creepy hipster trying to channel his sense of superiority through his overpriced vinyl collection. I took that personally. I'm insulting myself there. That would be me. But however consciously ignorant we are of media, it is certainly not for lack of evidence of its effect. Marshall McLuhan, widely regarded as one of the greatest media studies researchers and thinkers of all time, once famously said, "The medium is the message." By the way, I should have brought that. I don't know why I didn't. The medium is the massage. That's what its title is. Really, the medium is the message. That is a book you must read. That is a must read. You could read that book in a single afternoon. It is 150 pages. It's very small, very large print, and half the book is just audio or visual images. It's not like Gebser, where it's going to take a whole year for you to read. You can read The Medium is the Message in a day. It is an amazing book. Please go read that book. That book is amazing. Marshall McLuhan was a brilliant man. He's a brilliant man. Just because he wasn't a philosopher, it doesn't mean he was not brilliant. He was hyper intelligent, just a brilliant guy. Okay, so the medium is the message. The underlying idea expressed by the concise statement is that society is affected more by the medium it uses to communicate a message than the content of said message. So I will repeat for emphasis, the medium is the message. What does that mean? The underlying idea expressed by the concise statement is that society is affected more by the medium it uses to communicate a message than the content of said message. That is what it means when someone says the medium is the message. But why? Media, writes McLuhan, by altering the environment, evoke in us unique ratios of sense perception. When those ratios change, men change. Different media evoke different ratios of the senses, leading to the formation of new mental models based on those unique sensory balances. The printed book is an excellent example. The book privileges the eye, which relies on clarity, order, and depth. These aspects are manifest in the medium's absence of noise, the auditory stimulator, or, in this case, interference anathema to deep reading, thinking, and understanding. So we can already see why I believe the book is a manifestation of and propagator of the mental consciousness structure. It privileges the eye. Of course, when I'm reading something, when I'm reading John David Ebert's brilliant book, I'm going, yes. Currently, walls and fences are going up everywhere across the globe as literalizations of nation-state borders. Okay, what's happening? I'm reading, I'm privileging the eye. And of course, the eye relies on clarity, order, and depth. You can very clearly see the connection between that and rationality. Rationality also relies on clarity, order, and depth. Please go check out my Kill Rationalism series. I don't want to bog this down too much. And then, of course, the absence of noise, which could be literal or figurative. So, in a very literal sense, it could be I'm reading a book and, a lawnmower is going off in the background and I can't read because it's just too distracting. In a figurative sense, it could be I'm trying to think rationally, but I'm being distracted by what my girlfriend said or what my dad told me or what my brother's doing, and now I can't focus, I can't think rationally. Interesting. The book is also meant to be experienced by the individual in solitude, paving the way for the strong subject, the sense of quote-unquote I that our country and culture value so greatly. So, of course, when you're reading a book, generally speaking, you're reading it by yourself and in solitude. That presupposes a qualitatively high degree of I, me, ego. Of course, rationality being born from the discovery of objectified space. The I, in this case, is just the subject perceiving it. Another connection between the book and the mental structure. Compounded by all of this is the continued ordered thought contained within or represented by a sentence. When I'm reading a sentence, everything is continuous, ordered. This is what logical thought is, continuous, ordered thought. The sentence is continuous and ordered, and it confers clarity and sense on the reader. And also notice, with the printed book, everything is exactly that, printed, which is to say we're not writing with our hands anymore. And when I'm reading a printed book, everything just glides. Everything just glides beautifully. Continuous, ordered thought, beautifully. But if I'm writing handwriting, now we got a problem because I don't know the nuances of your terrible handwriting. So now I'm not gliding, right? I'm not engaging in this uninterrupted, lubricated ease of rational thought. Now I'm sitting there going, is that supposed to be a 4 or a Q? Because I don't know what this is. There we go. As such, it is clear why McLuhan concluded that the book, and all media created by the Gutenberg printing press, gave rise to rational, logical thought. It makes sense intuitively, especially considering that the timelines match up. Johannes Gutenberg invented the printing press in the 15th century. The Renaissance occurred between the 14th and 17th centuries. However, though McLuhan successfully argued the sheer power emanating from our media, inspiring generations of media studies students in the process, he failed to see the real cause of the change he attributed to the Gutenberg galaxy. The Gutenberg galaxy being the media that were created or came into existence based on the discovery or invention of the printing press, so books, stuff like that. The true cause of the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the quote-unquote discovery of reason was the mutation of the mental consciousness structure. A new structure of the collective unconscious was now fixed and irrevocable. And the discovery of perspective, the discovery that suffused and permitted all great findings and breakthroughs afforded by rationality, officially ushered in a new way of relating objects in the world to one another. So no, the Gutenberg galaxy did not usher in the Enlightenment, but there are still many lessons to be learned. Though our media are not omnipotent, their power remains overwhelming. Social media has changed our real-life social behaviors, expectations, and values. People now treat the real world as if they're being constantly filmed. Most people meet on dating sites and will marry them if they look even 70% like they do in their profile picture. Anecdotally, I asked my brother's friends if they still watch basketball, as I knew they were interested when they were younger. They said the sport has become unwatchable because everyone is just playing for clips. By the way, as a soccer fan, I've realized this. I think some of you guys, some of you professionals, the Marcus Rashfords of the world, you're playing so you don't get clipped up on social media, and that's why you're failing, you loser. Politically, people no longer engage in reasoned, good faith, long-form discussions, but instead prefer to quote-unquote own their opponent in a blitz of bad faith, out-of-context arguments, and then walk away once the cameras turn off. I will raise my hand. I used to do this, and it is not good. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be like me before I kind of went through my self-improvement phase. You don't want to just own and make people feel like crap because you're so sure of your logical proofs. No one cares. The rest of this article could be explaining the different changes the internet has imposed on our social interactions, but I believe the point is self-evident. But the internet, like the printed book, is an effect, not a cause of such turbulence. Remember, the book did not cause the rise of logic and rational thought. The mental consciousness structure gave rise to both rational, logical thought and the book. The book is an effect, just as the internet is an effect, not the cause. And just as the book is not only a manifestation of the new consciousness structure, but a propagator of it, I believe the internet functions similarly. And, as John David Ebert reminds us in his brilliant book, The New Media Invasion, the medium is not only the message, but comes after the message. That is, after a shift in consciousness of or world horizon. So not only is the medium the message, McLuhan just taught us that, John David Ebert reminds us the medium comes after the message. The book came after the mutation of the mental consciousness structure. The internet, I'm going to argue, comes after the mutation of the integral consciousness. People like to say the internet is the cause of all our problems. No, the internet is an effect. From this point on, I will be leaning on John's book to do all the heavy lifting. His book is incredible, and I mean this sincerely, and has fundamentally changed the way I view the world. I call these books eye-openers, and this book certainly falls into such a category, especially to those ignorant of media studies. In the 48 Laws of Power, Robert Greene advises us to let others do all the work and take all the credit. Though it may make me look smarter, I cannot do so in good conscience. I will provide information about John, his channel, and how you can support him at the end of this piece. Well, I don't know why I read that lessons. Okay. Every culture opens a window onto a particular world horizon, writes Ebert, that is accessed via one or another form of media. To create a new world, a new cosmos, so to speak, the process is typically twofold, that of enunciation and transmission. Enunciation usually comes in the form of a prophetic vision, while another, the man receiving the information, creates the appropriate medium necessary to transmit said vision to the masses. Don't even need to add anything. Beautiful. Thus, Ebert continues, Abraham, living in the Mesopotamian city of Ur, hears the voice of an obscure and hitherto unknown god that tells him to leave the land of his birth and migrate to another land, Canaan, which this god will make known to him. Moses, too, after enduring collective traumas of Egyptian servitude, received a prophetic vision, created the alphabet, and brought it down from the mountaintops and presented it as the new means of communicating the Hebraic vision. The image or vision, then, comes first, and the medium is invented as a necessary tool in communicating said vision. Put simply, the medium comes after the message. But before we speculate on the potential change in world horizon that necessitated the internet, we should briefly mention the profound changes the medium has caused or created. In doing so, we may catch a glimpse of the incipient character of what is to guide our civilization for the foreseeable future. So I think if you analyze the book and you recognize the book as a manifestation of the new consciousness structure, well, I think you can use it as a sort of microcosm that you can springboard off of and have a greater understanding of the macrocosm. So understanding the effects of these new structures, the manifestations of the new structures, and really get into the foundations and the bottom of how they operate, I think can be important in conferring clarity and knowledge on the macro process, on the structure itself that brought to light or to existence these manifestations. And the changes that the internet has made on us that I already mentioned, those are kind of surface level stuff. We'll get into the good stuff here. It's important to note that Ebert warns us that the new media invasion cannot be compared to preceding revolutions in media, notably the Gutenberg printing press. The internet is the incarnation of a new mentality altogether, he says, one in which technology, learning, and information occur at the speed of light via digitization. So there you go. To begin, we must examine the consequences of the word and compare them to those of the byte, B-Y-T-E, the digital byte. The ancient power of the orally spoken word, writes Ebert, was such that, once uttered, it had the magical effect of bringing things, tangible things, into being. So the spoken word, as opposed to the digital byte, gives rise and creates physical forms. I am going to, hey, you, Johnny, watching my show, go make me a grilled cheese. What are you going to do? You're going to make me a grilled cheese, which is a physical form, and you're going to bring it into existence. On the first page of the Old Testament, God says, let there be light, and light emerges. God says, let there be light, and light emerges. When Muhammad was meditating alone in a cave before the angel Gabriel descended to him and spoke a single word, recite, he then brought the Quran and, along with it, an entire civilization into being. So one spoken word from the Prophet Muhammad, recite, brought in the Quran and the entire Muslim and Arabic civilization. So clearly, the spoken word has a very powerful effect. Computer technology, however, reverses this effect. If the character of the orally spoken word was procreative, the character of the digital byte is destructive. The power of the byte, writes Ebert, confers upon humanity the ability not to bring forth new physical worlds, but rather to dismantle them. With the power of the byte, things do not originate, they disoriginate, or better, disintegrate. When Jeff Bezos, for instance, founded Amazon.com in 1995, the power of the byte enabled him to dismantle the actual physical existence of the bookstore. Within a mere 5 years of Amazon's inception, independent bookstores everywhere had begun closing their doors. So as more physical forms and manifestations moved to the digital realm of bytes, this sort of inaccessible world, if you want to call it that, it has a destructive effect on our physical world. No more bookstores, no more record stores, no more coffee shops, none of that stuff. Not great. Okay. The bookstore is obvious, but movie theaters, too, have struggled to compete with digital streaming. Social media has replaced coffee shops and bars. Zoom has destroyed the traditional workplace where everyone operates within a particular physical, geographical location, and businesses like BetterHelp seek to transfer even therapy to the digital realm. But the problem with the digital realm, the cloud, whatever you want to call it, is that it's not real. Despite my belief that we humans are spiritual creatures running around on Earth doing spiritual things, there is a base, primitive characteristic we possess, one powerful and in need of constant fulfillment, even if only just eating food. You have to do this. I don't know what to say. For millions of years, we have existed on the physical plane of tangible, measurable Earth. Our experiential knowledge is ingrained into the deepest parts of our psyches and mental faculties. As such, the intangible, immaterial plane of the digital world will inevitably confer and demand a lesser degree of reverence and sincerity than the physical world. Our brains and bodies have evolved to survive on Earth, not Facebook. And so, as more and more of the aspects of the world and human condition are transferred to the digital realm, the more shallow and in turn more trivial they will become. Of course, this will cause dissatisfaction and possibly resentment amongst the audience, wondering why they can't make them like they used to anymore. Maybe I'll do a follow-up to this. This is going to be too long, this video. But I think there's some interesting media connections that I learned from this book to be made about film and streaming services and digital and how digital has affected film. Let me know if you guys are interested in hearing me explain that. But there are other problems imposed on us by the internet. The medium has ushered in a knowledge catastrophe. Remember, we humans have a bias for the real, the tangible. The book is a physical object that was expected to endure long after the author who wrote the contents in it had died. As such, the knowledge found in a book was viewed to be more or less permanent. Accordingly, only true knowledge, battle-tested by other ideas, could be written into the book. A body of wisdom is there to be consulted, writes Ebert. It is something which has a shaping influence on the individual's life. Knowledge worth knowing, in other words, is not easily acquired, but it is worth the trouble of storing up in writing, where it will take on an existence that is independent of the merely transitory phenomenon of biological life. So, you can see the power of the medium manifesting here. Because the book was supposed to live on longer than even the author, well, there was a corresponding higher degree of reverence for the content in that book. And you can see how we're connected to Earth here. We're connected to the tangible world. And that's why the rational structure has such a strong knowledge foundation to an extent. Obviously, my Kill Rationalism videos explains that it can only go so far. But once it stays in that domain, it's got it because it's working with the millions of years of evolution that we're working with that force us to privilege and assign more reverence to the external world rather than this weird digital cloud thing that everything is moving towards. But with new media comes new rules, and the sheer chaos of the internet has deconstructed all such useful and true knowledge, as exemplified by Wikipedia. The history of the book, prior to the 20th century, as we have seen, has been a history of concrete objects in which and upon which stable references have been inscribed into an objective world that is not going to disappear anytime soon. It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. In the digital realm, however, knowledge has become completely provisional. What is seen as quote-unquote knowledge on Wednesday can be easily erased and replaced with digital lines of knowledge on Thursday without the necessary explanation as to the epistemological reasoning for the replacement of one knowledge claim with another. Sentences, paragraphs, and even entire books may abruptly disappear, replaced not with tangible text, but digital phantoms. Ebert beautifully describes the state such quote-unquote knowledge has left us in. Quote, Wikipedia reflects a status of knowledge in a society in which knowledge has become merely provisional. Indeed, in such a society, there almost seems to be nothing worth knowing at all, since everything learned is destined to become obsolete in a few minutes anyway. I think this connects to the Gen Zers I work with, who I asked them who we fought in the Vietnam War, and they told me Russia. Why even bother learning about this stuff? It's going to change anyways. Why even bother learning? These people, the Gen Z was raised on the internet, so their knowledge systems aren't the best. Remember the Ghost of Kiev? This is funny. The legendary fighter pilot who, at the very beginning of the Russian-Ukraine war, apparently shot down 6 Russian aircraft all by himself. The story that spread so virally on social media that Sam Hyde's fans photoshopped a picture of Hyde in the cockpit in an image so clearly altered it would be obvious to Helen Keller, and fooled a Republican congressman who would go on to tweet the image in complete sincerity. Only the skies remember, and the family of those 6 deceased pilots, I guess. So what happened was, when the Ukraine-Russia war popped off, remember that? Remember the story about the Ghost of Kiev? This one guy who apparently, by himself, knocked down 6 Russian aircraft all by himself? So it was obviously bullcrap. And the fact that it was able to spread so quickly and through so many people without really being challenged, that's the internet for you. That's the knowledge catastrophe. 2, Sam Hyde, who's like an internet edgelord, anytime there's like a tragedy or some shooting or something, what him and his fans do, they'll inundate the local news station with pictures of Sam holding a gun or whatever to kind of troll the media, right? Like they, look, here's our killer, here's the mass shooter. It's not obviously the real mass shooter. So what they did was they took a picture of just some guy in a cockpit and they photoshopped Sam Hyde's fat, ugly face on it. And it was the most obvious Photoshop I've ever seen in my entire life. My mother could have figured this out. Like, that's not real. They tweeted it out, and then Republican congressmen actually tweeted it with sincerity, with a straight face. They're like, look, we found the Ghost of Kiev. What a hero. It's Sam Hyde's idiot face going like this in the middle of a cockpit. It's the most obvious thing I've ever seen. But this is an example of the knowledge catastrophe that the internet has imposed on us. Stupid. Anecdotally, oh, here we go. This is what I just mentioned. Anecdotally, I've taken to asking my younger coworkers, people who have spent 85% of their life in front of a textbook and chalkboard, basic questions like who did we fight in the Vietnam War and what's a thesaurus? Apparently, we fought the Germans and the Russians in the Vietnam War, and a thesaurus is either a dinosaur or a dictionary from Midville times. This is what we're dealing with, people. Knowledge catastrophe. I'm sure you can find evidence of the dumbed-down nature of our contemporary culture in your everyday life. But there are more problems. The internet and the speed it operates at will never allow for the creation of genuine culture. One of the main reasons is that the internet attempts to expose all secrets. Whether uploading one's secrets to social media sites, 4chan, or even WikiLeaks, secrets have played a vital role in ensuring smooth social functioning. Sorry, guys. Though I love the spirit of WikiLeaks, and I love the spirit of WikiLeaks. We can hold our corrupt leaders accountable. That's okay. But sometimes it becomes a problem. Though I love the spirit of WikiLeaks, not all government secrets should be divulged, especially ones that put the lives of American citizens at direct risk. I should say also American troops at direct risk, though it's a little different. The Taliban has admitted that they have used the documents published on WikiLeaks to identify and punish American collaborators. Hillary Clinton divulged nuclear secrets to Russia in a political deal, potentially putting our entire population at risk. Okay, she divulged a secret that should not have been divulged. It is unwise to divulge nuclear secrets to your enemy. That is stupid. On a smaller scale, the unwarranted revelation of secrets has driven some to suicide, like that infamous case of a homosexual college student who was unknowingly recorded having sex with another man, the tape being soon revealed, leading to the young man's tragic suicide. There's been some questions about the validity of that particular story. We can pick another story if you want. You all know the point I'm making, and I think it's a reasonable point. On the internet, nothing is sacred, but in real life, we'll die for the sacred. This incongruence will not be healthily reconciled, and it will not. Another problem imposed by the internet on us is termed the death of the event. All great cultures derive from religious singularities. Consider, for instance, Ebert writes, the ancient religious idea of the pilgrimage. In order to go and find the sacred object or geographical place, you had to physically move your body from one point in space to another, where the object was to be found. Such sacred localities are spatio-temporal singularities. The whole point of going to find them is that they cannot otherwise be replicated like original works of art. The Mecca, in which every true Muslim must make the sacred pilgrimage to, serves as another good example. This is one reason, quote, this is one reason why the Arabs don't allow electronic media near the Kaaba, I apologize if I'm mispronouncing. On suspicion, perhaps, that to reproduce it electronically would render the whole point of the pilgrimage obsolete. Pilgrimages, furthermore, take time. But then, why take the time nowadays when you can just surf the internet for digital photos of sites and watch videos posted by tourists on YouTube? Great culture needs time to manifest and transmit. And the instant, ready at an instant nature of the internet does not afford such time. Well, that wasn't the best sentence there. And this great culture, so to speak, is the necessary prerequisite for popular culture. So all this popular culture stuff, I like the movie Trainspotting. I got a Bad Brains shirt on. I like the pop culture stuff. That doesn't exist without a preceding great culture, which is usually 100 times out of 100 religious or spiritual in nature. Pop culture is downstream from that. So you can say, well, I don't see any reason why we can't have bad brains just because I looked at the Mecca on my phone. That's not what I'm talking about. And yeah, you're not going to, but just give it enough time. Just trust me. The founding of new religions, let's see, hold on. Okay. The founding of new religions, which occurs slowly through processes of cultural transmission extending over generations, thus becomes an impossibility in an age dominated by internet technology, since all religions depend upon the occurrence of a truth event as their founding singularities. The holy city of Karbala is sacred to the Shiites precisely because it was the one and only point in space-time where Hussein ibn Ali was beheaded. So, of course, when Jesus died and rose from the dead, that was on a particular day, which, of course, we celebrate in Easter and Good Friday and all that stuff, and it was at a particular place in space. I can't remember. I'm not a Christian, so don't ask me. Let's say it's Rome. I'm not saying it was. Or Jerusalem. So that place and that time is going to have very, very, very important reverence and resonance on the people. Religions are started by, like you said, cultural or religious singularities, something that happens at a particular time, in a particular place in the world. Not just a particular thing divorced from a time and place that can be shared in a world that is digital and detached from our terrestrial, external, tangible world. In a more modern sense, I'm sure we can all relate to our favorite IPs being memed and, in turn, viewed in a way that is less reverent than would be otherwise. The moment when Walter White loses everything, a payoff 6 seasons and 8 years in the making, is transformed into a cheap gift you send when your wife tells you she won't stop for more beer on the way home. Of course, the book does not stop there, but we can now catch glimpses into what our present and future hold. The disruptive and profound impact is a sign that a preceding change in world horizon, or, as I believe, consciousness structures, occurred. Consciousness structures are strata of the collective unconscious that ultimately act as a particular way of bringing objects in the world into relation with each other. The mental structure, giving birth to the Enlightenment, the scientific revolution, the discovery of reason, and, put simply, the birth of rational thought, is but one example. As we have briefly discussed, the printed book was the medium that transmitted the new structure in all its characteristics. The internet has destroyed the world of rational thought. But, again, the internet comes after the message. The question then becomes, what change in structure, if that is indeed the change alluded to, occurred? The integral structure emerged years ago, as evidenced by discoveries that transcended basic logic and rational dualism, such as Einstein's discovery of relativity, Heidegger's turn toward being over mere knowledge or logic, Jung's concept of the collective unconscious, and the discovery of cubism and surrealism in art. The integral structure sees through all other structures and recognizes the fundamental core, the itself, that is the ground of unity connecting the whole world. Being integral, it balances the mental, mythical, and magical structures into a balanced, interwoven whole in which none is privileged over the other, in which each has its place, its own efficient and deficient nature. It can be understood conceptually, though it should not be limited to such limited comprehensions. It is more accurately a mode of being, a mode of presence in which the world is perceived diaphanously, which is, say, transparently, in which all artificial divisions are retracted, and the one doing the retracting is finally given his proper respect, which is to say, there is a you underneath your ability to think rationally. There is a you. You are more than the laws of logic personified. You can deploy rational thought. You can deploy rational thought, not rationality can deploy rational thought, okay? You can deploy rational thought, you can deploy irrational, you can deploy irrational, but there is a you, quote-unquote, behind all those modes of thought. You need to start treating that with respect. So when pure logic leads you to an absurd conclusion, you need to trust yourself and not just go, oh no, all my knowledge about the world for 28 years that is codified or crystallized in the form of intuition, that I'm going to toss that all aside because logic told me it's okay to burn my neighbor's house down. Don't do that, okay? It's ridiculous. Just no one's saying, obviously, I say this a billion times, don't throw out rationality entirely. That would be stupid, but come back to reality a little bit. You are more than the personification of the laws of logic. Okay. So just as the book is a manifestation of the mental consciousness structure, as well as a transmitter of the new mental models it would create, the internet functions similarly for the integral structure. You can integrate all previous characteristics of media, be they visual, audible, educational, aesthetically pleasurable or challenging, into a balanced whole in which any and all are available at a moment's notice. sort of what it's like to be a human, at the intersection, if you'll pardon my rational spatialization, of all aspects of the human condition, in a perpetual flux as past and future are integrated into a perpetual present, ready to deploy parts of the integral whole that constitutes man as he sees fit. Repeat for emphasis. Sort of what it's like to be a human, at the intersection of all aspects of the human condition, in a perpetual flux as past and future are integrated into a perpetual present, ready to deploy parts of the integral whole that constitutes man as he sees fit. So on the internet, in the present moment, I have the ability to do whatever I want. I could start my video, I could do it visually, I could do audible related stuff, so I could close my eyes and listen to a YouTube video. I can read something with my eyes and just put aside audible for a second. Whatever I'm doing in the present moment, I have integrated all aspects of previous media into one medium, which is the internet. And now that I know how to operate this internet, I can deploy what I want when I want it, right? Same thing with integral consciousness. The internet, and I guess the present moment, when you're just kind of moving your mouse and trying to figure out what to do, the internet is like the point of convergence in which all aspects of previous media meet and codify into one single medium. And then after attaining that sort of point of convergence, you can deploy these aspects at your own will. Same thing with being a human being, right? The present moment, as a human being, you are the point of convergence in which the magical, archaic, magical, mythical, mental, and now integral structure meet. You at the point of convergence where past, present, and future meet, and you can integrate them into one new thing that you can springboard off to get all this great stuff done. Hopefully that was well explained enough. I apologize if it was not. All right, as he sees fit. So as for the future the internet will impose upon us, I would be foolish to think I could put it more succinctly than Mr. Ebert. Quote, but of course, all of this is a part of a larger endeavor of our civilization to flatten out depths into surfaces, to crush complexity, ambiguity, and multidimensionality into simplicity and advertising logo simple-mindedness. Television flattens political issues into sound bites. The automobile flattens cities into wastelands. Celebrities are a flattening of the human personality into an icon. Human movies flatten complex stories into formulas and cliches. Books are becoming ever more and more shallow. Zero casualty wars, i.e. drones. Caffeine-free Coke, Coke and Pepsi. Caffeine-free coffee, Coke and Pepsi. Non-alcoholic beer. All flattened, simplified, detoxified, and destroyed. But with knowledge, we will not be unaided in our struggles. The integral structure is predicated on such knowledge. Let's put it to good use. Thank you for reading. Thank you guys for watching so much. I hope you guys enjoyed. So again, the internet is the new medium that is a manifestation of and propagator of the new structure. In the same way that the internet is that point of convergence where all previous aspects of media converge and meet, conferring us power to deploy whatever parts of these aspects we want. Same thing with being a human. Our present moment, we are constantly in a ever-present flux, and the present moment, the human being, is the point of convergence where past, present, and future meet, and all aspects of the human condition also meet. And then once we integrate them, we can transcend and improve our lives individually and collectively. When you see huge media changes, that is not just the sign that technology is getting better, okay? Remember, the medium comes after the message. After the message. When you see the internet affect the world as much as it did, I mean, you wouldn't even have me without it. You wouldn't even know I existed. When you see that, okay, when it's either destroying the economy or building the economy, that is a sign, that is a signal to you to say, hey, something is changing. You need to adapt or die, my friend. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I actually wrote down, like I always do when I shout out John, I wrote down a bunch of his courses because I want to make sure he's being financially supported so he can continue to benefit my life with his awesome theories. So I'm going to read through a list of courses. Please, I would recommend you buying them. Understanding Friedrich Nietzsche is one of them. I did that personally. Great course. Carl Jung, great course. Transformations of Consciousness Through Time. Sri Aurobindo, Rudolf Steiner, Gebser, Tara Deschardins, Arthur Miller, and Eric Neumann. That's an awesome course. I was a little nervous about that course because that's when I was still kind of in my rationalist phase. I was like, this is going to be stupid. But then I realized, no, this is awesome. There's some really good stuff. Rudolf Steiner, Deschardins, Sri Aurobindo, and then, of course, Gebser with me. Philosophies of History, Spengler. He is an expert on Spengler. He is one of the best in the world on Spengler. It's unbelievable. Toynbee, Vico, and others. German Idealist Philosophy, I took that one. Kant, Hegel, Schelling. Who was the other one? Fichte. Excellent. I love the German Idealist philosophy. That is such a good course. I love that course. That course was awesome. Understanding Heidegger, I downloaded that. I haven't gotten into it yet because I've been busy with you guys, but that's a good one. Understanding James Joyce's Ulysses. Introduction to Mythology, Joseph Campbell, William Irwin Thompson, Marie Sedegast, and then John David Ebert's book. That's an awesome course. I hope you rationalists have a little more respect for mythology. And he has another course on Jean Gebser's Evolution of Consciousness. Of course, that's where I got all of this stuff. John is the one that put me on to Gebser. So if you think I suck at this, go check out John. More power to you, honestly. He is more intelligent and erudite than I am. Understanding Baudrillard, that was a very cool course. Mythology in the Movies, The Philosophy, Cosmology, and Mythology of Rudolf Steiner, Thomas Mann and the Magic Mountain, Thomas Mann's Epic Tetralogy, Joseph and His Brothers, Understanding Deleuze and Guattari, Understanding Dostoevsky, and there's so many more. Please go check out John and buy this book. This book is awesome, I promise you. If you don't know anything about media studies or like media and any of this stuff, if you like what I got from this book, or from this video, if you like what I did in this video, buy this book. This book is incredible. This book will change your view. It's an eye-opener for me, and that's, like I said in the article, that's any book that changes my life irrevocably is an eye-opener, and that met the category, my friend. I love you guys so much. Thank you guys for continuing to watch. Not everything in this series is going to be political necessarily. Like I said, this is more societal, cultural stuff. It's not really political, so I'm not here to just inject my crappy political opinion in every single video. So don't worry about that. I love you guys. Please let me know what you guys think, and I will see you guys soon. You guys are the best. Thank you guys.